of intent to establish an Indo-German Center of Excellence for skilling in the renewable energy sector. These documents will again be exchanged by our respective ambassadors. In addition, I am also very happy to announce that there are 2-3 other important private sector partners who have concluded agreements during this visit, and these include the MOU between National Institute of Electronics and Information Technology and Infineon Technologies AG, the offtake agreement for green ammonia between Indian company AM Green and the German company Uniper Global Commodities on green ammonia, and the letter of intent between the Department of Posts, Ministry of Communications and the Deutsche Post. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the exchange ceremony. I now request the spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs to conduct the rest of the proceedings.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, Mr. Frederick Merz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, Honorable Prime Minister of India, Shri Narendra Modi, Honorable Ministers, members of both delegations, distinguished guests, and friends from the media. We will now have the press statements. May I now request Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi to give his remarks to the media.
Your Excellency,
Your Excellency, my friend Chancellor Frederick Merz,
जयंती के दिन चांसलर मर्ज का भारत में स्वागत करना मेरे लिए विशेष प्रसन्नता का विषय है। ये एक सुखद संयोग है कि स्वामी विवेकानंद जी ने ही भारत और जर्मनी के बीच दर्शन, ज्ञान और आत्मा का सेतु बनाया था। आज चांसलर मर्ज की यह यात्रा उसी सेतु को नई ऊर्जा, नया विश्वास और नया विस्तार प्रदान कर रही है। चांसलर के रूप में यह उनकी भारत ही नहीं बल्कि एशिया की पहली यात्रा है। यह इस बात का सशक्त प्रमाण है कि वे भारत के साथ संबंधों को कितना गहरा महत्व देते हैं। उनके पर्सनल अटेंशन और कमिटमेंट के लिए मैं उनका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूं। भारत जर्मनी के साथ अपनी मित्रता और साझेदारी और सुदृढ़ करने के लिए पूरी तरह से प्रतिबद्ध है। गुजरात में हम कहते हैं, आवकारो मीठो आपजे रे, यानी स्नेह और आत्मीयता से स्वागत करना। इसी भावना के साथ हम चांसलर मर्ज का भारत में हार्दिक अभिनंदन करते हैं। फ्रेंड्स, चांसलर मर्ज की ये यात्रा एक विशेष समय हो रही है। पिछले वर्ष हमने अपने रणनीतिक साझेदारी के 25 वर्ष पूरे किए और इस वर्ष हम अपने राजनयिक संबंधों के 75 वर्ष भी मना रहे हैं। ये माइलस्टोन्स केवल समय की उपलब्धियां नहीं है, ये हमारी साझा महत्वाकांक्षाओं, परस्पर विश्वास और निरंतर सशक्त होते सहयोग के प्रतीक है। भारत और जर्मनी जैसे देशों की अर्थव्यवस्थाओं के बीच करीबी सहयोग पूरी मानवता के लिए महत्वपूर्ण है। बढ़ते व्यापार और निवेश संबंधों ने हमारे स्ट्रेटेजिक पार्टनरशिप को नई ऊर्जा दी है। हमारा द्विपक्षीय व्यापार अब तक के अपने सर्वोच्च स्तर पर पहुंच चुका है और $50 बिलियन के आंकड़े को पार कर गया है। 2000 से अधिक जर्मन कंपनियां लंबे समय से भारत में मौजूद है। ये भारत के प्रति उनके अटूट विश्वास और यहां मौजूद अनंत संभावनाओं को दर्शाता है। आज सुबह भारत जर्मनी सीईओ फोरम में इसकी जीवंत झलक दिखाई दी। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और जर्मनी के बीच टेक्नोलॉजी सहयोग प्रति वर्ष मजबूत हुआ है और आज इसका प्रभाव ग्राउंड पर स्पष्ट रूप से दिखाई देता है। रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी के क्षेत्र में भारत और जर्मनी की प्राथमिकताएं समान है। इसमें सहयोग को बढ़ाने के लिए हमने इंडिया जर्मनी सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस स्थापित करने का निर्णय लिया है। ये नॉलेज, टेक्नोलॉजी एंड इनोवेशन का साझा मंच बनेगा। हम क्लाइमेट, एनर्जी, अर्बन डेवलपमेंट और अर्बन मोबिलिटी जैसे क्षेत्रों में मिलकर नई परियोजनाओं को आगे बढ़ा रहे हैं। ग्रीन हाइड्रोजन में दोनों देशों की कंपनियों का नया मेगा प्रोजेक्ट भविष्य की ऊर्जा के लिए एक गेम चेंजर साबित होगा। भारत और जर्मनी सिक्योर, ट्रस्टेड और रेजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन के निर्माण के लिए मिलकर के काम कर रहे हैं। इन सभी विषयों पर आज किए जा रहे एमओयू से हमारे सहयोग को नई गति और मजबूती मिलेगी। फ्रेंड्स, रक्षा और सुरक्षा में बढ़ता सहयोग हमारे आपसी भरोसे और साझी सोच का प्रतीक है। रक्षा व्यापार से जुड़ी प्राथमिकताओं को सरल बनाने के लिए मैं चांसलर मर्ज का हृदय से आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। हम रक्षा उद्योगों के बीच सहयोग बढ़ाने के लिए एक रोडमैप उस पर भी काम करेंगे, जिससे को डेवलपमेंट और को प्रोडक्शन के नए अवसर खुलेंगे। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और जर्मनी के बीच ऐतिहासिक और गहरे पीपल टू पीपल टाइज हैं। रविंद्रनाथ टैगोर की रचनाओं ने जर्मनी के बौद्धिक जगत को नई दृष्टि दी। स्वामी विवेकानंद की विचारधारा ने जर्मनी सहित पूरे यूरोप को प्रेरित किया और मैडम कामा ने जर्मनी में पहली बार भारत की आजादी का ध्वज फहराकर हमारी स्वतंत्रता की आकांक्षाओं को वैश्विक पहचान दी। आज हम इस ऐतिहासिक जुड़ाव को आधुनिक साझेदारी का रूप दे रहे हैं। माइग्रेशन, मोबिलिटी और स्किलिंग बढ़ाने पर विशेष बल दिया गया है। भारत की टैलेंटेड युवा शक्ति जर्मनी की अर्थव्यवस्था में महत्वपूर्ण योगदान दे रही है। आज ग्लोबल स्किल्स पार्टनरशिप पर जारी जॉइंट डिक्लेरेशन ऑफ इंटेंट इसी भरोसे का प्रतीक है। इससे खास तौर पर हेल्थ केयर प्रोफेशनल्स की आवाजाही आसान होगी। आज हमने खेलों के क्षेत्र में भी सहयोग को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए ठोस कदम उठाए हैं। यह युवाओं को जोड़ने का एक प्रभावी माध्यम बनेगा। आज हायर एजुकेशन पर बना कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव रोडमैप शिक्षा के क्षेत्र में हमारी साझेदारी को नई दिशा देगा। मैं जर्मन विश्वविद्यालयों को भारत में अपने कैंपस खोलने के लिए आमंत्रण देता हूं। भारतीय नागरिकों के लिए वीजा फ्री ट्रांजिट की घोषणा के लिए मैं चांसलर मर्ज का आभार व्यक्त करता हूं। इससे दोनों देशों के लोगों के बीच नजदीकियां और बढ़ेगी। मुझे खुशी है कि गुजरात के लोथल में बनाए जा रहे नेशनल मैरीटाइम हेरिटेज कॉम्प्लेक्स से जर्मन मैरीटाइम म्यूजियम जुड़ रहा है। ये दोनों देशों की मैरीटाइम हिस्ट्री को जोड़ने वाला ऐतिहासिक कदम है। ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन्स के क्षेत्र में गुजरात आयुर्वेद यूनिवर्सिटी का जर्मनी के साथ करीबी सहयोग रहा है। इस महत्वपूर्ण विषय पर आज किए जा रहे एमओयू से हमारा सहयोग को और अधिक बल मिलेगा। फ्रेंड्स, भारत और जर्मनी की हमेशा कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर हम चलते रहे हैं। हमारी दोस्ती का प्रभाव ग्लोबल स्टेज पर भी दिखाई देता है। घाना, कैमरून और मलावी जैसे देशों में ज्वाइंट प्रोजेक्ट से हमारी ट्राइलेटरल विकास साझेदारी दुनिया के लिए एक सफल मॉडल है। हम ग्लोबल साउथ के देशों के विकास के लिए अपने साझा प्रयासों को आगे भी निरंतर जारी रखेंगे। इंडो पैसिफिक दोनों देशों के लिए हाई प्रायोरिटी है। इस क्षेत्र में हमारे तालमेल को बढ़ाने के लिए हम एक कंसल्टेशन मैकेनिज्म की शुरुआत करने जा रहे हैं। आज हमने यूक्रेन और गाजा सहित कई वैश्विक और क्षेत्रीय मुद्दों पर विस्तार से चर्चा की। भारत सभी समस्याओं और विवादों के शांतिपूर्ण समाधान का पक्षधर रहा है और इस दिशा में किए जा रहे सभी प्रयासों का समर्थन करता है। हम एक मत है कि आतंकवाद पूरी मानवता के लिए एक गंभीर खतरा है। भारत और जर्मनी इसके विरुद्ध एकजुट होकर पूरी दृढ़ता से लड़ाई जारी रखेंगे। भारत और जर्मनी सहमत है कि ग्लोबल चैलेंजेस से निपटने के लिए ग्लोबल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में सुधार अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण है। यूएन सिक्योरिटी काउंसिल में सुधार के लिए G4 के माध्यम से हमारा संयुक्त प्रयास इसी सोच का प्रमाण है। एक्सेलेंसी, 140 करोड़ भारतवासियों की ओर से मैं एक बार फिर आपका भारत में हार्दिक स्वागत करता हूं। मुझे विश्वास है कि आज की चर्चा भारत जर्मनी साझेदारी को नई ऊर्जा और स्पष्ट दिशा देगी। आपकी यात्रा, आपके व्यक्तिगत जुड़ाव और भारत के प्रति आपकी गहरी मित्रता के लिए मैं आपको हृदय से धन्यवाद करता हूं। दांके शोन।
Thank you, sir. May I now request His Excellency, Mr. Frederick Merz, Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany, to give his remarks to the media.
Exzellenz, sehr geehrter Herr Premierminister, lieber Narendra Modi, meine Damen und Herren, die erste Reise in diesem Jahr führt mich in der Tat nach Indien. Es ist auch zugleich die erste Reise nach Südostasien, die ich als Bundeskanzler unternehme. Und ich will damit ein Zeichen setzen für die strategische Partnerschaft mit Indien. Diese strategische Partnerschaft mit Indien hat für Deutschland, hat auch für mich eine hohe Priorität. Sie haben es bereits gesagt, 75 Jahre diplomatische
Years of diplomatic relations. We share 75 years, and 75 years after establishing diplomatic relations, this holds true more than ever before. Our two countries are seeking to intensify and deepen our cooperation. This morning I had the opportunity to visit the birthplace of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi is ascribed the following sentence: be the change which you hope for the world. We want to take heed of that together, dear Narendra Modi. We want to elevate the relations between India and Germany to an even higher and a new level. You invited me to visit your home state of Gujarat, and I would like to express my gratitude and express my heartfelt gratitude for this special gesture. It's a sign for the very deep ties between our two countries, but it's also a testament to the friendship towards me. Thank you very much. This city we're visiting today, Ahmedabad, in a certain way, is the cradle of modern India. This is where Gandhi started his nonviolent struggle and fight for freedom, self-determination, and democracy. And the region, this part of India, Gujarat, represents a impressive economic dynamic. A dynamic of India ranging from textile industry via highly modern smart industrial parks and to a very lively startup scene. Furthermore, the region is a pulsating location for universities, for engineering, and for applied sciences. Here in Gujarat, it becomes tangible what's important to both of us when it comes to this visit. The fundamental political values that we share, the tremendous economic potential that we see, and our ever closer interconnections with a view to skilled labor and education. And especially amid the profound geopolitical changes and upheavals in the world, we share a fundamental interest in deepening our strategic partnership. Europe and transatlantic relations remain important to us. Today, we need to forge a broader network of partnerships, and we need to do so swiftly and with a long breath at the same time. India is a desired partner, a partner of choice for Germany, and the preconditions for a renewed and deepened and intensified partnership couldn't be more favorable. Germany, as the most populous state and the state in the European Union, which is the most economically strong state in the European Union, and India is the biggest democracy of the world, we share fundamental values. The highly dynamic India and the highly technological Germany, we share essential interests, and this is what we build upon. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to focus on three priorities. First, we advocate for an international order in which we can live freely and securely. Because the world order is changing. The moment we are meeting here, it is increasingly marked by great power politics and thinking in spheres of influence. Rough winds are blowing, and we have to brace ourselves against these rough winds. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine is probably the most drastic expression of these changes and this upheaval. Together, we are going to assert these values and interests that we share in this new world together. No, we don't always agree in all matters, and that holds true for our European partners as well, but the overlaps we're seeing are very big indeed. And this is why we want to cooperate more closely in the field of security policy. We host joint exercises of our Navy and our Air Force, and we have joint port visits, military joint visits, and we have forms of consultations. And we want to deepen our defense industries and the cooperation of our defense industries, and this has strategic significance. That strengthens both, and that leads to the fact that India is less dependent on Russia. You saw it. We signed groundbreaking memoranda of declaration. One memorandum stipulates the closer cooperation of our defense industries in the field of development and production, and the promotion of innovation innovation and strengthening global supply chains. But not only do we intensify our defense industrial cooperation, but we also intensify our economic relations. Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we're seeing a renaissance of protectionism. It's directed against the principles of free trade and open markets. And countries like India and Germany have been focusing on the principles of free trade and open markets, and we continue to focus on these principles in future. We're experiencing that great powers, big powers, use supply chains and raw materials increasingly as instruments of power. Together, we want to oppose this. We reduce unilateral dependencies of our supply chains, and that makes both of our economies more resilient. India, as the fastest growing economy of the G20, is a pivotal partner in the Indo-Pacific. You mentioned it, Prime Minister, more than 2,000 German companies are active in India, and ever more Indian companies are investing in Germany, with a bilateral trade volume to the tune of almost $50 billion in goods and services. At a record high, Germany is India's most important partner in the European Union. German and Indian companies are moving closer together in future technologies. And this is why we agreed to deepen cooperation in pivotal areas such as critical minerals, AI, digitalization and telecommunications, hydrogen, and battery storage. We want to deepen and intensify cooperation because innovation creates growth and requires academia, science, and research. We also foster and promote our cooperation in this field by way of the Indo-German Science and Technology Center. We are also working on establishing a joint center of excellence for technological innovations. And ladies and gentlemen, the fact that I'm accompanied by a large delegation of German top companies illustrates this dynamics impressively. We want to continue to remove obstacles and use and tap into potential. We discussed this together with Prime Minister Modi and leading CEOs at a round table, and I look forward to continuing this CEO forum to fully tap into full potential of our economic relations. We need to conclude the negotiations on a free trade agreement between India and the European Union. We need to use this opportunity. The President of the Commission are going to travel to India toward the end of this month and are going to sign this agreement. After it's concluded, they are going to undertake more progress and to bring this free trade agreement about. Allow me to say this also against the backdrop of the decisions of last Friday that the European Union concluded the Mercosur agreement finally is an encouraging sign on the path to continue down the road of forging and concluding free trade agreements. And thirdly, Prime Minister Modi said it, we want to continue to work in the field of education and skilled workers. Well-educated, skilled workers secure our prosperity. They're motivated, they're creative and innovative. Germany needs qualified professionals in the field of industry, in trade, nursing, IT, and in engineering. India has excellent young people who are well trained. It's an opportunity for both sides. We are opening up paths for legal and orderly migration from dual vocational training, studies, targeted visa and fast-track procedures and partnerships between universities and companies. 60,000 young people from India are studying in Germany. They account for the largest group group of foreign students in Germany. The number of urgently needed, highly qualified, skilled workers from India in Germany is increasing rapidly. And as of now, Indians are among the most successful group of immigrants in Germany. And we want to continue and promote this in the future. We want to enhance this trend, for instance, by promoting and expanding digital offers for German language acquisition in India. And finally, with the Global Skills Partnership, we're creating a framework for Indian skilled workers in the field of the healthcare sector. Mr. Modi, Narendra Modi, Germany and India are two large democracies and strong economies that have many things in common. We want to build upon this, and we want to deepen our partnership and our security partnership. Indeed, we want to strengthen our economic relations, and together we want to promote talents in India and in Germany. We do this for the benefit of both sides. We do this for a world order which preserves our values and our interests, and we do so because we trust each other and because we want to get to know each other better via the many meetings. I'm very happy to be you in your home state today. I look forward to welcoming you towards the end of this year in Germany on the occasion of the German-Indian intergovernmental consultation, and we're hosting these consultations. And allow me to also address the developments in the not-so-far neighborhood in Iran. We're seeing for 2 weeks how people from all sectors of society are taking to the streets. They're protesting peacefully for freedom and a better life in their country. Not only is it their right to do that, I pay tribute to the courage with which they confront the disproportionate amount of violence, and I call upon the Iranian government and leadership to protect their citizens instead of threatening them. The violence directed at the Iranian people is something we condemn in the strongest of terms. This violence is not a testament an expression of strength, but a weakness, and this violence needs to stop. Allow me to say this in conclusion, because the news coming out of Iran are accompanying us while we are here on a visit to India. Once again, Honorable Prime Minister, dear Mr. Modi, thank you so much for the warm hospitality, for the amicable reception here in India. I'm delighted to continue our good cooperation between Germany and India, and also look forward to continuing our amicable cooperation on a personal level. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the press statements. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your presence.
All right, I'm now joined by retired Major General G.D. Dwivedi and Shruti Das Gupta. All right, Shruti, key MOUs being signed between the two nations, from defense to education to skills. What does this talk about India-Germany ties in this era of Merz as the German Chancellor?
Well, it was not just MERS, but before that also. India is celebrating 25 years of strategic partnership with Germany, and that is why he is here. We have also held bilateral talks with him during the G7 meetings, where India was invited. We're ready to be part of a larger, more pluralistic world, and Germany seems to share that vision. As far as I understand, they are in dire need of skilled labor, and we've spoken about this in my earlier bite with you in the morning, where I said they are in dire need of healthcare workers, and India seems to be their go-to destination of qualified medical workers who would help the aging population of Germany stand on its feet. There are other, as mentioned in the speech, there are a large section of Indian students that study there, contribute to the nation economically as a student a university student would, and then they take that technology, their learning, their technology, either invest it in India or take it or become part of the German economy from there on forth. So this is something that we understand is a longer conversation than just what MERS is taken over as and doing. Now, from what I understand, we are going forth with a very large defense deal. We have spoken about having an officer in the at the IFC of Indian Ocean region, and that will help to maintain peace in the Indian Ocean region. So we are doing a whole lot more smaller steps beyond just tech exchange, buying and selling of goods. We want, in terms of climate, understanding climate change and ensuring e-technology, we've also, they want to be part of the battery world that India is investing in. Second use batteries, that is something that was found that an Indian company could take Exxon e-tron, I believe it's called, the battery, and could recharge it and use it in e-rickshaw. So that is just helping technology stay relevant for longer. It's not a single-use type battery. This helps the planet, right, in general, and that is something EU is very happy about. Green energy transformations, and that particular battery can get recharged by solar energy. So India is doing its bit, and they want to help India to progress. Why? As a partner force with them. So there are a large number of challenges, of course. Tech transfer being the major part of it, but we've done a submarine deal. I believe $8 billion submarine deal is on the works. Whether it gets completely announced and stamped and signed during this visit or after is something that we'll see. This is to ensure they have brought a large collaboration of heads of many companies, which will help them identify places where they can invest in terms of technology as well as money, and where they can train people and ensure that their business run profitably, as well as the nations and the partnerships progress well. So from what I see, it is a good thing. We have a very huge bilateral trade with Germany, and with the EU FTA on the table soon at the end of January, this particular meet is very, very important for India.
Yeah, I have also retired Major General Gigi Dwivedi with me in the discussion. Yeah. Gigi Dwivedi, please help us and our viewers understand how is this meeting going to weigh on the next EU-India summit that's due later this month?
Preeti, the point is, at this very juncture, there's a lot of geopolitical churning that is taking place, and Europe per se is going to try and navigate its independent policy, because as per the President Trump's national security strategy, which has unfolded last month, it willy-nilly imposes certain compulsions on Europe, and therefore we need to see this in the larger perspective as to how Europe is going to navigate its further geopolitics. In that, Germany is a very important country because it's the biggest economy of Europe, and also it follows its own independent policy. And Germany has tried to diversify, its trade and its geopolitical relations. And India is an important trade partner, and especially the defense partner with Germany, because we have been collaborating with German defense industry. Years back we had acquired 4 HDW submarines from Germany, and right now we are negotiating with the Type 214. These are very advanced submarines. They have the air independent propulsion, which is the state-of-art technology, and this is going to be a big deal on the table. And more than that, today our relations with Germany are consolidating, and this visit is going to further ensure that we take the relationship forward, and our trade is almost to the tune of $51 billion. There's a lot of scope to notch up or scale up the trade figures. And more than that, see, India is now trying to be self-reliant in its defense production, defense collaboration, and Germany has a very advanced defense industry. So beyond the submarines also, I think a lot of scope is there in the aerospace And also, very recently, Germany has given us a license for also in the field of small arms, which they made exception because they generally don't collaborate beyond the NATO countries. So all I can say is that this visit is very important. It comes at a time when Germany is looking forward to diversify, when India is also
Yeah.
looking forward to consolidate its self-reliance in defense industry. So therefore, I think this visit is going to take our relationship forward, not only in defense but also largely in the overall bilateral trade.
General Dwivedi, I also want to discuss with you how this is very crucial for Berlin because under Olaf Scholz, the coalition governments lacked strategic clarity, and ever since Merz took office last year, there has been pressure on him to mend or get clarity on ties with the rising powers like India. Talk to us about this shift in policy as far as Germany is concerned, and also given here the fact that it is the first country in Asia that he has chosen to visit.
Very true, because the geopolitics of Europe has undergone a paradigm change after the Ukraine war. The Europe itself is not on the same page because they have taken a different point of view. Like Germany, for example, has a very special relationship with China, and they had done very little to de-link or play the American tune. So therefore, Germany as a country is looking forward to diversify and open new avenues. And India is seen as a very major player because India has a very consolidated and a time-tested relation with Europe per se. We have no really differences with the European countries, except that we took a little subdued or muted stance as far as the Ukraine war is concerned. But the point is that as such, we have no major differences with the European Union. And Germany is actually a lead player. Germany, France, each three countries are lead players in Europe. And Germany carries a lot of clout as far as the geopolitics of Europe are concerned. And rightly so, I think India is seen as a major rising power. And it's in the interest of both Europe and India, and especially with respect to Germany, that our relationship actually scale up further. And this is a very crucial time because the geopolitics is getting realigned, the complete economic, supply lines, supply chains are getting realigned, and with the tariff war that is on, and the China-Europe relations, China-India relations, China-America relations, the Russia also. I think all this is being put together, and in time to come, there will be greater degree of clarity as far as India's relationship with Germany and Europe are concerned. But all I can say is the time is very ideal to take the relationship forward, diversify both in the bilateral terms of India-Germany and also India and Europe as a grouping.
All right,
Really.
sure. Thanks very much, General Dwivedi, for joining me in this discussion. Also, thanks Shruti Das Gupta, who was with us. And with that, viewers, we're now going to proceed. We're also picking up some information from US as far as the Iran crackdown on protesters is concerned. US-based rights group is saying that Iran's crackdown on nationwide protests has killed at least 538 people so far, with fears the real toll may be far higher. According to activists, more than 10,600 people have also been detained over the past 2 weeks. Iran has not released official casualty figures as an internet blackout continues to limit information from inside the country. Despite the restrictions, protests have continued in Tehran and other major cities. Meanwhile, Iran's parliament has warned that US and Israeli military bases would be legitimate targets if Washington uses force. US officials say options include cyber and military action are under review. Iranian media report that riots have damaged around 150 ambulances as authorities blame foreign powers for fueling the unrest. Saul Satka joins me in this discussion. He's a political commentator from Tel Aviv. Saul, thank you very much for joining me. there's of course crackdown on protesters there in Iran, but the figures that have come out are startling to say the least. 538 protesters in a country are being taken down by the regime itself. We know that IRGC has been given all authority now by Khomeini. What does that speak about a nation?
If it's true, and it does seem to be based on the pictures we're seeing of body bags piled up in hospitals, even those pictures are being shown on Iranian state TV, which makes one think that they are using those pictures to scare off the protesters. They're saying, look at all the people we killed, you better stop protesting. So it does seem to be true. It seems that the Ayatollah regime has made a decision. They have heard Trump's words. Trump, if you recall, promised a few days ago that if they kill the protesters, the US will have the protesters back and will intervene militarily to protect the protesters, thereby presenting the IRGC with a dilemma with two bad options. And it seems that they have picked the bad option, which leads to the death of the protesters. And now we await to see if the US administration will actually back up its promise and come to the rescue of the protesters and attack IRGC targets to make it harder for them to do what they've been doing up to now.
Do you think Elon Musk is now going to move ahead in the direction that Trump has asked him to, as far as providing Starlink internet is concerned? Because all we know is that there is an internet blackout that has been imposed by Khomeini in Iran.
What I understand, the Starlink is already activated and free inside Iran.
Okay.
And that was done by Musk. Musk has also instructed his own platform, X, to change all the Iranian emoji flags, which were previously the ones associated with the Islamic regime, to the flag of the protesters, the former flag with a lion and the sun. So Elon Musk definitely does seem to be on the side of the protesters alongside Trump. The Starlink situation is not an issue of it being turned on or off. It's an issue of getting those terminals inside Iran. There are some, and as a result, some messaging is getting out. Also, people are fleeing on foot with videotapes and the videos on their phones. So videos are getting out at a trickle.
Correct. What should you and I expect from the US at this point in time? Stark warnings have come out by Trump himself. Also, after Iran has signaled its will to negotiate. Do you think this is an opportune time for negotiation, or it's gone by now?
This has been the Iranian regime's modus operandi for decades at this point. So on the one hand, they will continue doing whatever they plan to do for their permanent revolution, as they call it. So they will continue building rockets and nuclear bombs and so on, or as in this case, attacking their own people, while at the same time holding out the other hand and pretending that they want to make a deal. And that way they can continue doing whatever they want to do, while at the same time holding off their enemies from attacking them, because they are extremely fragile. As we saw in June, Israelis simply owned the skies of Iran without American help for a week. There were basic Israeli planes, not stealth planes, flying over within eyesight of the people of the capital city. Well, Israel owned within a week the Iranian airspace. They were able to get inside the houses of 30 of their generals and assassinate them, essentially without any recourse, of any kind of meaning. So the Iranian regime, for a very long time, for anyone that's been paying attention, has been a paper tiger, and all they can do is make threats. So the final recourse that they have, really, is to fire off what remains of their ballistic missile program, perhaps 2,000 missiles. And the faster they can fire that off, the more dangerous those missiles become. But that's it. Once that's gone, that's the end of them. They really have no further threat or projection.
All right, so do stay on with me. There's some more information that we'd like to give our viewers. Viewers, let's tell you that Iran has also summoned the British ambassador over protesters twice taking down the Iranian flag at the embassy in London. This comes as a protester climbed onto the balcony of the Iranian embassy in central London and pulled down. Those are the visuals on your screen. He pulls down Iran's flag during an anti-regime demonstration. The video on social media now on your screens showed the man replacing it with the pre-Islamic revolution and his sun flag, which is a symbol of opposition to the current leadership in Tehran. This man taking down Iran's flag from the embassy in London as protests were held there. The Iranian embassy later said the national flag was restored and is hoisting it again. London police say between 500 and 100 people attended the protest at its peak in Kensington. 2 people were arrested for aggravated trespass, with one also facing an assault charge on an emergency worker. Police are searching for a 3rd person. Officers said there was no serious disorder and security remains in place around the embassy. Similar protests have been held outside the Iranian embassies worldwide, including in Berlin, as demonstrations inside Iran continue to pose a major challenge to the regime. Saul, I request you to join me back in the discussion. Clearly, the demonstrations have now moved outside Iran as well, in London, Germany, different parts of the world, US. We're seeing these demonstrations taking place, and of course, some unlawful activities have been reported from each of these demonstrations outside of Iran as well. What does this really speak about Khomeini and Reza Pahlavi if he chooses to make a re-entry at this point in time in Iran?
The demonstrations that we're seeing in Western capitals are a sad indictment of the Western left, who, if you will recall, over the past 2.5 years, have been protesting in groups of tens of thousands for Hamas, essentially. They call it pro-Palestine, but really they were protesting to keep Hamas alive and protect these terrorists from the IDF. And yet, when actual protesters are dying, persecuted over 47 years, when they're literally giving up their lives against an evil regime, the only people in the Western capitals like London and New York who are protesting are the people that had to flee Iran, of which there are perhaps 10 million. 10 million Iranians live in exile because they had to flee this evil regime, or their parents or grandparents had to. I know many of them. And standing alongside them are Jews and a few people who follow the good cause. But the Western left, who pretend to be in favor of human rights, are nowhere to be found. And that's a sad indictment of what they really believe. Clearly, they don't really care about human rights at all.
All right, so thank you very much for joining me in this discussion. We're now going to move. Viewers, in South Korea, President Lee Jae-myung is heading to Japan for a summit with Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi just a week after meeting Chinese President Xi Jinping. Seoul says it wants to balance ties with both neighbors amid rising tensions between Beijing and Tokyo. President Lee has pursued what he calls pragmatic diplomacy, aiming to keep good relations with both China and Japan, while opening doors for cooperation in business and technology, including artificial intelligence. China and Japan remain at odds, particularly over Taiwan. Japan has warned that a Chinese attack on the island could trigger a military response. South Korea, however, is unlikely to take sides, with Lee saying both relationships are equally important. Talks may address the China-Japan dispute while seeking areas for collaboration and regional stability. Dr. Sanjay Kumar, journalist from the Korea Herald, joins me in this discussion. Dr. Kumar, do give us a clear assessment of how South Korea is trying to balance between China and Japan.
Preeti, South Korea is trying to balance, but this balancing act is very difficult. It lacks in clarity, and that is why it makes it more difficult. Because on one side, China wants South Korea to be on their side, and from Japan's perspective, the comments that has been made by the Prime Minister just a few days ago on Taiwan issue makes it more complex. So it is between strategic clarity and strategic ambiguity in between for South Korean president. So that is why I do not see that any tangible developments would be concluded when it comes to minimize or affect on large basis the East Asian tensions which is going on, and especially between Japan and China. So South Korea would likely not to mediate between Japan and China, and rather than that, South Korea is going to come up and discuss the South Korean agendas more into the summit and the meetings, and that is why South Korean agenda is more important. And the most important agenda from Lee Jae-myung perspective is to join, CPTPP, which is being led by Japan, and achieve the economic diplomacy. So South Korea is going to focus more on economic diplomacy aspect this time.
Sure. And what are the other talking points that we can expect in the summit with Japan?
More precisely, there would be supply chain discussions. There would be discussions on supply chain, and from South Korean perspective, they are also going to not discuss more in detail about the historical dispute things. And we have to understand from the South Korean perspective, because the new president in Korea, although it's like 6-7 months, but he is not very old here, and he has a challenge to maintain cordial relationship with Japan, because under President Yoon Suk-yeol, Japanese-Korean relations were in very good shape. So there is a challenge, because many here in Korea, they think that President Lee Jae-myung is a little pro-China. I'm talking about the very basic perceptions sometimes the critics make about the current president here, especially from the conservative bloc in South Korea. They cite President Lee as pro-China, who is going to affect and especially bring Japan-Korea relationship and Japan-US relationship in bad shape. This is the assessment of many of the conservatives, and that is why this is one of the biggest reasons President Lee Jae-myung would like to balance and give a clear signal to conservatives and as well as people en masse here in South Korea that no, I am not like that, and whatever I am doing, it is for the national interest of Korea, and I am not pro-China or not pro-Japan on any. I am just pro-Korea. So that kind of messaging he would like to give, and that is why he has come up with this economic agenda in the center, and supply chain. There would be some people-to-people ties things, some cultural exchange. That kind of softer agendas would be on the table.
What position has South Korea taken on the Taiwan question?
See, Kriti, we had been discussing in the programs last week as well that South Korea remains firm on one China principle, because when the diplomatic relations were forged with China, this was one of the conditions. That time even Taiwan was not happy about it, and they even cut ties with South Korea, but South Korea did not bother about it, and they continued this stance on one China policy. And after Lee Jae-myung's visit to China, when he came back, before also and after that also, South Korean government has reiterated that they stick to the principle of one China policy. And just because they are visiting Japan, it is not going to change the stance of Korea. But I would also like to say that experts here, they have suggested the South Korean president not to lean on one side and not to just be nice to everybody, because that would make South Korea lose its credibility also.
It was in December, in fact, when they changed Taiwan to Taiwan China in parentheses on its website as well. Given that clear position on Taiwan of South Korea, what do you think is going to be the dialogue when he meets Takaichi?
I'm sure that South Korea would not mention anything on Taiwan during all the talks with Japan. This is my common assessment and understanding.
Okay. Sure.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks then very much, Dr. Kumar, for joining me in this discussion. With that, viewers, we're now going to cover some more news from South Korea, where an investigation has been initiated by authorities after North Korea claimed its airspace was violated by drones. President Lee Jae-myung has vowed a swift probe, warning that civilian operation of unmanned aircraft would be treated as a serious crime threatening national security. Pieces of the drones and aerial photos were said to have been recovered by North Korean forces after the aircraft were reportedly shot down. South Korea's military has stated that the drones in question were not operated by its forces and that no provocation was intended. A joint investigation with North Korea has been indicated as possible, though no formal proposal has been made. Tensions between the two Koreas remain high, with previous attempts at dialogue by Seoul unacknowledged by the North. And that's all we have time for. Do keep watching NewsX World for more international news and updates.